Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, Rebel Nation. How are y'all? This is Cody Pruitt. We are back on Rebel Takes podcast with Miss Evie Van Pelt. And today we have a very special guest, one of my absolute boys, Mr. Justin Bell. Justin, how are you, brother?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me. And I want to reiterate what you said. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, Rebel Nation.
And Miss Evie, I think this is the first time you guys get to sit down, so I'm glad you guys got to meet. But
yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I never had a one-on-one with Justin, and the big guys up front, the Rebel Walk, which I publish. we actually have a lineman gallery we publish after every game, every home game. Our photographer is there, and we have our gridiron gallery, which is just everything. But we actually have a lineman gallery that is solely devoted to the offensive and defensive linemen because we feel like they don't get enough love. So
now, there we go. Did we have this in 2014?
No.
No. Of course not. But yeah. Wanted to have you on, brother, because I know see all these interviews and podcasts. They got all the skills players and QBs and wide receivers, all the fancy stuff, but don't really get to have or don't see very many of the hardworking guys down there in the trenches that are paving the way for, those other guys to make the headlines. So I'm super excited to talk to you. Before we get into football, just what are you doing nowadays, brother?
Currently, I work at a professional services firm. I'm the manager of talent acquisitions there. The firm's name is Horn. Actually been around for a little over 60 years now, but traditionally a CPA-led firm and been a little bit more of that professional services for the past decade. So essentially any and everything in business is what we do. That's obviously accounting work, but also from a cyber standpoint as well.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
And I know we mentioned it a little bit before we got on. You're coaching a football team or a football?
Yeah. So I'm actually a offensive lineman coach for the Mississippi Lady Panthers. So we're part of the Women's National Football Conference that spans across the United States. We have about 17 teams this season that's in the league. And we've also hosted international players. This past season, we had 5 players that came over from Australia. So we're continuing to grow. The team has been around for going on almost 5 years now. But they've been pretty successful. And I would like to say that here in Mississippi, we had the best athletes. So
we get a lot of arguments here, baby.
There we go.
Isn't that the truth? Well, let me ask you. I mean, is it different coaching women than it is coaching men? I mean, how is it different, I guess?
Yes, it is a little different. And I would say from a foundational standpoint, when you consider the fact that most of us as men probably been playing the game since about 5 years old. Most women typically get the game a little later in life, but I can tell you that the joy is equal. So it's a lot of passion and a lot of joy in playing the game. And that's what I really like about coaching a group of ladies because, I mean, they're hardworking and they bring effort every day.
That's actually awesome. Really cool. I'd imagine it would be, like you mentioned, we're, for the most part, guys that, play at the level we do, we've been playing all of our lives. So it's probably, or I could see where it would be refreshing from a coaching standpoint.
Yes.
To have, players that are, 18, 19, 20, however years old that are just getting introduced into the sport. And you're literally the one that's igniting that fire for the sport.
Right. I mean, that's so true. And then you have some players that are a little older than that. Some are a little closer to their 40s that, decide that they want to try the game. And I mean, they really enjoy it. And I think similar to the passion that we have and the connection that we built, the game is fun, but more of the relationships in the locker room is why we stay. So I would say that's what the ladies are drawn to as well.
Absolutely. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that it was a league that big. Y'all have like national play and all that stuff.
Yeah. Actually, the league also recently played in a World Cup. They had a World Cup women's football team that, yeah, that
Am I
recently
living
played
under
in
a
Spain.
rock? What's going
Yeah,
on?
so I mean the league itself is sponsored by Adidas. So I mean we do have some nice jersey and nice apparel. And I mean we just have this year we have an outstanding group of coaches that are hardworking, and our mantra for the season is hardworking communication. We have to make sure that not only do we communicate as coaches, but we also effectively communicate to our players about our needs, and also remain accountable for our actions as coaches. And we encourage the players to be accountable as well.
Oh, that's really cool. Like, dude, yeah, y'all got like sponsors and everything. That's
That's
legitimate.
awesome.
Yeah.
Where would people do y'all like do you broadcast the games? Is it on YouTube? Where could someone go
So
to find you guys?
we broadcast our games on the Veer Network. And if you have any fans that are interested in it, please feel free to share my contact information through my social media with them. So that's jbell_68 on Instagram and Justin Bell on Facebook. We're looking for more linemen.
Always,
Good.
always looking for linemen.
Nothing works without the big guys up front.
Exactly,
Big guys,
exactly.
girls, that's right.
Coach Matt Luke used to always say, "Big men lead the way." So,
That's right. Yeah, they do.
So we need more linemen, and we obviously have some outstanding skill players. I mean, the games are exciting, and I would encourage you guys, and I'll be sure to also blast on my social media, as the season approaches. But we'll start camp in this upcoming February, and our official first game will be in April.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do they have what would be your team's? I guess do they have an Instagram or social media?
Yes.
Anything like
Yes. I could let me get that for you.
we can circle back around to it, but
Yeah.
I'll be able to add that on there. But yeah, that's really
Cody,
cool, brother.
I wonder if they need a DB coach. If they need a safeties coach. I could see you out there firing up people. I've been wanting Cody to coach for a long time. I think Cody would be great. So can you see Cody out there?
Right.
On that topic, I'll say this: we had a powder puff football game back in high school that I was the coach of, and long story short, I guess we'll go back to one of the differences between, I guess, a men's league and a women's league. I guess
you make
guys,
people cry.
Exactly.
People cry. I bet so. Yeah.
We communicate very directly,
right.
Especially just in boys football. We're used to coaches, screaming at us, yelling at us, all that kind of stuff. But you can't do that especially when you're coaching high school girls. So. That was one big difference. I'm not sure I would be the best coach in that league.
Yeah. And I would say the easiest way to be in contact with the team and kind of learn more about the organization would be mspanthers.com. MS as in Mississippi, panthers.com.
Cool.
Yeah, so you get a chance to see some of the apparel that we have, to learn more about our team, but also learn more about sponsorship opportunities and about the WNFC as a whole.
WNFC.
Yep.
Man, that's really cool. I honestly had no idea that you were doing that, or that league was
won. I want to see a game. I know, that's exciting.
I'm interested in it too.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to broadcast from a game. That's right.
One of our players, her name is Jamie Locke. She's actually a defensive backs coach at Millsaps College down here in Jackson. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
That is really so neat, Justin. Thank you for telling us about that.
And other than that, you anything else? Anything else you're
Man, the only other news is that, man, I have a 8-month-old.
8 months old, man.
Yeah.
Boy or girl?
Congratulations.
A little girl. Her name is Olivia Rosemary Bell.
Oh,
beautiful.
what a pretty name. You're a girl dad. I bet you're a great girl dad.
I don't know if she's spoiled or if I'm spoiled.
Probably a little bit of both.
I think so. I can't get enough of her. But she's kind of under the weather right now. So I've been nursing her as much as I can when her mother doesn't have her.
Yeah. Oh, so you'll have a big Christmas. This will be a fun Christmas for y'all,
Yeah,
I
it
bet.
will be. It will be.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
awesome.
Well,
Congratulations, brother.
I wanna ask you right off if we could just jump off into football here. Have you had a
Sure.
chance to watch? Ole Miss has a freshman left tackle and a freshman right tackle, Jaden Williams and Micah Pettis. And I would think, I mean, I know you played, but I mean, they're redshirt freshmen too.
Right.
But I mean, how hard is that to step in on the offensive line in the Southeastern Conference and play?
It's very difficult. I was also a red shirt myself, so I can tell you, it's definitely a transition going from high school to college with the speed of the game. I would like to compare it to every college practice felt like a high school football game to me. So imagine the speed in the actual live SEC game. So it's a difficult challenge, but I mean, those two guys are like dancing bears out there. I mean, they have an amazing footwork, and they also block until the whistle. That's something that you can't really coach. So those are some of those intangibles that you need. Not only their size, obviously, but the effort that they give on each play is very important, and that's something that you definitely can't coach, but something that I love to see in the offensive line.
That's
Right.
that's actually really good. I know you watch the games and kind of dissect everything the same way that I do. And
Right.
obviously, our rushing attack and rushing game this year is otherworldly. So, have you? I mean, I guess have you seen maybe some progression from game one until right now, where it's just kind of been noticeable that maybe the group is coming together better, maybe they're blocking better, or just anything as a whole.
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference that I've seen is that they block for the entire game. And the reason why I say that is because um, most coaches would tell you that blocking a run in the first quarter is much different than blocking a run in the fourth quarter. But they try their best, and again, goes back to the effort that they give, but not only those skills that they naturally possess, the fact that they have a motor, and part of that comes from the support of their entire unit as an offensive line, because we used to always say that if one of us mess up, we all look bad.
Oh,
So
hey, look, I remember those workouts with Coach Jackson doing the
yeah,
sprints.
yeah,
If anybody jumped off slides,
yeah,
redoing
yes.
the rep,
So I
redoing the
would
rep.
say, yeah, but I would say the biggest difference is that I mean they play for an entire 60 minutes. And that's something that you kind of build and you progress in as the season goes. And typically you would see a drop off, but those guys continue to give us more and more each game, which is why we're able to run the ball as effectively as we have been.
And another thing is the up tempo offense. I mean, being able to sustain the level of physicality when I think I saw today we're running a play like basically every 20 point some odd seconds. Whatever it is, it's number 3 in the nation in terms of how fast we run plays. So, those big guys have got to be in shape to be able to do that, like you say, for the entirety of a game. Can't imagine.
Yes, and a lot of that goes to their strength staff that they have. They have an amazing strength staff, but also something that's very important, and I had to learn as a big man: nutrition. So those guys are putting the
Mm.
right things into their bodies, and I had a chance to kind of visit the facilities. Also got a chance to see their nutritional setup on, how easily they have access to foods that help fuel their success on the field.
Right. It's funny because Micah Pettis talked when we had him on. I guess Kentucky was the first game he started,
Yeah,
and I think he was offensive lineman of the week or something, like that in his very
yeah,
first start. And when we talked to him, one of the things he said was, well, actually, Coach Kiffin said that Micah was an example of somebody who had the biggest difference, the biggest jump from his first year to this redshirt year. And Micah just said, I got tired of seeing guys come in and, guys playing ahead of me. And I knew I needed to do more. And he went to some of the older offensive linemen. And one of the things he said was, besides working out, he took better care of his body and ate better. And he said, I just decided to do all the extra things that I needed to do to get on the field. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, he cut down those visits to Chow King on Jackson Avenue.
I think so.
Yeah,
that's not easy.
I remember when I was in college, it really, Coach Decker and his strength staff, we were, Cody and I came in under Houston Nutt and his staff. So Coach Decker was our strength coach, and he really kind of taught us a lot about eating healthier and understanding, what that means. And with Coach Jackson, he came and facilitated that. So I would definitely say as a big guy coming into college and kind of learning exactly what do I need to fuel my body to perform at its best. That was something that's, invaluable. Is something that I continue to learn and grow with. And I know that, as you see, as we mentioned, he was the offensive lineman of the week. And part of that is not only to the weight room, but, the buffet table that, that he's going to as well.
Well, that's big praise coming from you, because we are that. It really is, because whenever we got to Ole Miss, we won't go into the sad bits, but our freshman year wasn't the greatest, and we were part of a program that in class that was able to really start a more upwards trajectory for an entire program that kind of dipped off a little bit, maybe towards the latter part of the 2010s. But we're back now. I'm not gonna take all the credit for the program being where it is.
But you're right. Think about where y'all started, and then beating Alabama. That probably was I'm not going to say inconceivable, because you always want to think that you can do it, but that was a huge jump. Big rise in the trajectory there.
No, that was an absolutely unbelievable experience. It was, I think I don't know, it took me like 2 hours to get off the field after the game was over.
Okay, did y'all, I want to ask y'all both, and you've probably been asked this a million times, but did you, as a fan, as a writer and a fan, I was pretty much prepared for the referees not to go our way, just because that just seems like that's how it happens. And so, but were y'all confident while you were waiting for that review that it was going to come back positive, or what'd you think?
I remember whenever Sinquez first intercepted the ball, we kind of just started to celebrate, and obviously, the crowd was going wild. And I know whenever you watch that, replays of that interception, I'm kind of telling everybody, chill, hold on, let's see what happens first. And then after we watched the reviews on the Jumbotron, it was obvious, and that's whenever we started to go nuts.
What about you, Justin? Were you confident?
I was very confident, but I was also a little nervous. And the reason why is because before that, we actually had a blocked field goal. So that blocked field goal, the score was 17-23. So that blocked field goal put us in a position where if they were to score and kick and make the field goal, they would obviously win the game. So going down, I was a little nervous because they were moving the ball a bit. But once I saw that the interception, I just felt it in my heart that it was, that we're going to win this game. So, but it was an amazing feeling, and it was an amazing drive on both ends, but it was a better play by our defense. That drive.
And I will say this, it always looks like I busted the covers on that play. All right, let me break this down for you.
Cody, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I've heard people say that, and I take that
exactly.
So I take that for you.
We're going to clear that up right now.
Okay, good. Right. Let's do it. Let's do it.
The play that we were playing on that play on that particular play was I was basically playing like a low hole quarters. It was some really fancy defense that Coach Womack had drawn up, right? Okay. So I'm keying on the number 2 receiver, and and the number one receiver. But if either of the receivers deviates underneath 7 yards, then I drop off and I take them either in the flats or I escort them underneath across the field. And that year, dang, I can't remember that tight end's name, but he was one of the guys that, we were in film all week. That's the guy. Like if they get in the red zone, that's who they're gonna throw to. But I remember seeing the number one receiver. He fell off underneath, and just in the moment, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I know it's going to go to this tight end. So I know Sanquez was going to be over the top, and I was just going to fall, underneath. Now, and to play devil's advocate, if someone would have came back into the flat and gotten a catch, anything like that, that would have been on me. But knowing that shows how valuable film study is. I knew that it was a very high probability it was going to go to that tight end, so I sunk underneath the tight end on that vertical route, and it resulted in Sanquez catching an interception.
Well, I'm glad you have put that to rest, because I will take this footage to anyone who ever tries to tell me that, which I'm just joking. Nobody tells me that. But.
No, I see it every time I see the picture. It's at the stadium, the north end zone, I think. It's on the stadium. Every time I see it, I'm like, yo, people think I busted a coverage.
Yeah. That's funny.
Which technically I did not have any reason to be there, but it ended up in the most beautiful way possible.
Yes, it did.
Can't say anything.
Did. So, Justin, what do you think about the game coming up Saturday? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's always great when we go into a bye week with the win, no matter how tough it is. So I know we have a lot of confidence going into it. I think it'll be a dogfight regardless. I mean, it's still Alabama, and then
Right.
they just suffered a tough loss against LSU. So I know they want to bounce back and try to get in the best bowl game that they possibly can. But I feel that the Rebels we're a hot offense. We have a outstanding defense right now. So we're going to fire on all cylinders and play a complete game for 60 minutes.
The complete game being the operative phrase there.
There you go.
I know when we had AJ last week, I gave him a little bit of, I guess, tough love or criticism. And one of the points was I haven't seen the defense play 4 quarters yet all season. We've played halves, we've played 3 quarters of, what I would call land shark defense, where we're really, executing and living up to that identity. Yeah. But we're going to have to do that this week, obviously. But I think having that off week, like you said, and just having a second to kind of slow down and just mentally, emotionally process everything that's going on, because the season, I mean, it's been going fast. And I can only imagine it's been fast for them. But, they're sitting at 8-1 now. And that's just, I know when we got to 7-0?
Yeah, 7-0.
In 2014,
yeah. Yeah, y'all were the first ones to do that since that 62 team, I think.
It was a while.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty awesome. Well, as former players, I mean, can you explain, I guess, the importance? I mean, what is that bye week? Saturday off, and then a whole other week of time to take care of your bodies and everything. What does that actually mean to an athlete at that level?
Well, that's what I was going to say is whenever we went 7-0, we had our bye week was kind of earlier in the season.
Yeah, we had one earlier.
Yeah, so once you get to this point in the season, it can be overwhelming almost to just know that, you're on the cusp of, doing something special, or you have that opportunity. So for them to have the bye week where they did have, or it being last week, to me, I I would think, I know that we would have loved to have had that in 2014, but I would think that it was just a perfect time for everybody to sit down, just look at everything. It's like, hey, okay, we're 8-1. This is what we got to do. Let's take a breath and just kind of recalibrate, refocus everything, bring everything back down to earth, because you have, the whole country, the conference, saying either you're really great or you're overrated or you're underrated, all this kind of noise that you try to block out as best you can. But it's especially today, you're just not going to be able to block out all of it. So in my opinion, having the bye week whenever we did, and regardless of what, who Bama played last week or whether they won or lost, just for us, I think it's going to prove to be invaluable come Saturday.
Yeah, that's true. And you get that time to recover, from some of those bumps and bruises. You have a lot of guys that constantly, play through some of that soreness. So you have that time to really, really heal. Cody was one of those players, by the way.
No. I had a torn labrum since my sophomore year.
And you had a club for a while too, so.
But that was our freshman.
But having some time to really heal. Beside it, and I support everything that Cody said, obviously, but that time to get extra few minutes in a cold tub, hot tub treatment is very important. And to get in the weight room and kind of hit some of those targeted areas that kind of have weakened over the season because you haven't been able to really focus on straightening your shoulders since you spoke about his labrum, more kind of focus on straightening your quads to protect your knee, that kind of stuff, and work on stretching, obviously, for the flexibility. So
well, let me ask you, because you were so versatile. I mean, you played right guard, you played left guard, you played some at center. I mean, I'm assuming a lot of that, beyond just your ability to do it, I guess when somebody gets hurt, you may have to slide over or switch sides or whatever. But I mean, how were you able to do that?
Because he's Justin Bell.
There we go.
That's right. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, that's impressive to me to be able to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. No, truly, it's because I was just a student of the game, and I knew that I wasn't the tallest or the fastest, so I had to be the smartest. But my drive really, really started when my freshman year, while I was a red shirt. I remember, doing the Walk of Champions, and only 3 people knew who I was, and 2 of those people were my family members. So, and at the same time, that that fueled me, and it created a drive in me to kind of learn. Not only my position, but everything around me, because I want to know my why, and to kind of go back into my coaching style with my Mississippi Panthers. That's something that I harp on as well, knowing the why. So that kind of
No, that's huge. Just something I was going to add on to that was, well, speaking on 2 things, is you mentioned having that kind of chip on your shoulder. When you were, the Walk of Champions, not everybody was screaming your name, all that kind of stuff. And I was, I think, a 3-star recruit coming out of a private school. So I had that same chip. But I think what had really happened was whenever we got the new coaching staff, Freeze and his guys came in that spring, I ended up spraining. I had a high ankle sprain for that entire spring camp. So I couldn't move the way that I wanted to. So that ended up bumping me down, in the depth chart, which is, it is what it is. Chief ended up, you remember Chief? Absolute boy. Love you, Chief. Shout out to you. I think he's in Arizona now.
I'm gonna put his government name out there, Shalarvez.
Yeah. I tell you, I see him on Instagram. I think it's Instagram working out. Holy cow!
Oh, yeah.
Like he looks like
He's still
he's cut.
Yes.
He feel like he eat bricks or something. Like,
yes.
He's cut.
Oh my gosh, he is. I know.
But yeah, I absolutely love Chief. He's a brother. But ended up bumping down in the depth chart. Fall camp came around, and I felt like I had something to prove. And within about a week into fall camp, I had ended up earning that starting position back. And I forgot what I was going to say.
Was that 2013?
When?
That happened.
2013.
Fall camp. Yeah. Fall. Was that fall camp of 2013?
Coach Free's first year with us.
That was 2012.
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
2012.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. And another thing that you touched on was knowing the why, and also being the smartest, or making sure that you're as smart as you can be. And that's one thing that Coach Womack did a really good job of teaching us. Like my sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, didn't matter what class you were in, if you were a starter, if you were a true freshman just stepping on campus. The first day of fall camp, we would go in there, watch film, and we would literally break down cover 4, cover 2, cover 6, and then just cover 0. We would start with that every year. And he would just drill that stuff into our head. And the reason being is he wanted us to know the why. Whenever you know why you're doing something, that's going to allow you to operate at a higher level ultimately. But it's really going to let you just play faster in this case. And another thing that he taught us was just playing smart. And the way that, I guess the way that it's relevant here was no wasted movement, or just being efficient with your movement.
Yeah.
And for me, I wasn't the most agile safety. You know, we had guys like, Trey and Sanquez and Mike Hilton that are a little bit shorter, but they could turn, cut on a dime, stuff like that. And I was the tallest safety. So that was something that was really important for me. And he used to tell me, if you're not wasting any steps, it can make a 4.6 guy, a 4.6 40-meter dash guy look like a 4.4 guy.
Yeah.
And that was something that was really important, and I know was very integral in my success that I did have, was just being efficient with my movement, knowing the why, knowing the defense inside and out, which towards the end of my junior year and definitely my senior year, I knew the playbook like back of my hand. But just being efficient and knowing the why is probably two of the biggest things that a young player, if they could just really understand how to be self-aware and improve on themselves in that regard, or in those two regards, that would probably take them further in football, at least, than anything else.
Yeah. Well, Justin, you had a stretch of, didn't you? I think I read where you started like 29 straight games until you had, I think, a leg injury or something maybe, and missed just a few. But I mean, that kind of durability at your position, I mean, that's impressive. 29 straight games in the SEC. I mean, that's how did you do that? I mean,
because he's Justin Bell.
Because he doesn't. I have a feeling that can be the answer for a lot of questions.
Yeah, treatment, and staying in the weight room. Getting a lot of extra work outside of our typical schedule in the morning or in the afternoon. So kind of squeezing that time in, watching additional film. Coach Matt Luke also harped on being efficient with our movement as well. So part of that is also learning how to get out the way. Most linemen actually get injured because they're in the way. You're not finishing a block, or, you're standing around the pile. So you get rolled up, and that's how you kind of get different ankle injuries and things like that. So with my situation, I actually got injured in our second win against Alabama.
2015.
Yeah, in 2015, where I actually had a high ankle sprain as well. So that, it kind of kept me out for a few games. But just staying, treatment, getting in the weight room, and kind of doing some of those little things right that's needed to recover and
the
stay
stuff
on the
that
field.
Nobody likes to do.
Exactly.
Well, 2 wins against Alabama. That's pretty impressive. So
there we go.
Yeah, did you get a powder blue helmet? Do you have
I
one?
do. Yeah, I still have one. It's at my mom's house though. She won't let me have it.
I'm not complaining, but I didn't get a powder blue helmet. I still got the navy one, so
yeah.
I'm a little bit butthurt with you about that one. So.
Well,
Hey.
I wanna ask y'all something as players. I mean, I know y'all know that Auburn is in the middle of a coaching search. Well, I guess they're in the middle of a coaching search. New AD, and he spoke today. And Kiffin has been asked a couple of times. He was asked Monday. He was asked last Monday. Do you talk to your players about that? Because there's so much smoke around that. And he's like, no, I don't talk about that at all. I mean, we have a pro mindset here. We just do everything that we need to do, week in, week out to go 1-0 each week. So as a player, would it be hard to tune that out? Would you be checking social media to see, anything about your coach, or would you just literally, like he says, you have the pro mindset and you just keep doing what you're supposed to do?
I would say, or I'll let Justin speak on, I guess, Coach Freeze and his staff.
Yeah.
He would know that a little better. But I remember our freshman year when Coach Nutt and his staff when they did get the boot, it was a very, it was just an odd feeling. Like halfway through the season, we've heard a little bit, rumors of it, stuff like that on TV, and we didn't have, or we had social media, but it wasn't
not like
prevalent,
now.
as it is now.
Right.
So, we'd heard the rumors and stuff like that. I mean, I think Coach Nutt and his staff did a pretty good job of not, or at least trying to insulate us from that as best they could.
Yeah,
but it was definitely you could tell that something was just a little bit wonky or off, when you went to IPF, and I don't think was.
By the way, it's called the Manning Center now.
Yeah.
Manning Center.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
My bad, Eli, Peyton. Eli, we do want you on the podcast. So.
That's right. That's right. We're coming for you, Eli.
But yeah, it was just an odd feeling. And I don't know if was Coach Freeze taking any kind of heat like that in 2015.
No, not much. So that was around the time when the situation started to kind of fester about him potentially leaving. But at that time, I mean, Ole Miss saw him well into the, him being at the university well into the future. Yeah. But I do remember, to kind of go back to Coach Nutt. I remember we actually had a team meeting. So it was, actually great hearing it directly from our coach that, hey, they let me go. But one thing about it is that he said, I'm going to stay here with you and tough it out through the rest of this season. Now, granted, we went 2-10 that year. But, for him to get out in front of it, for us to hear the news directly from him and his staff, for us to have that time to be emotional. And I remember at that point, I mean, guys were really worried about their future because you have a new coach coming in with a potential new regime. So you have a lot of coaching changes going on. And then we also had changes happen in our training staff as well as our strength staff that went along with that as well. So it was a lot of uncertainty for a lot of us as players. You had a lot of players thinking of transferring and kind of seeking other opportunities. But to kind of piggyback, previously, Cody mentioned that a unique thing about our signing class is that we all made the decision to come to Ole Miss together to represent for our state. And we all were passionate about the time that we spent together in high school, going to camps and seeing each other on Ole Miss campus. So that's what helped us bond, gel, and made us stay, but also lead the way for us to, make a transition from that 2-10 year to ultimately going on 4 bowl game runs.
That's amazing. Well, let me ask you this, Justin, because you really just touched on kind of the camaraderie and such. How do you think, now with the transfer portal and new players coming in and out, and, I know that was something that was a topic of conversation at the beginning of the year with Coach Kiffin and all the players, is how in the world do you gel with so many new players. I want to say like 50% or something are new.
Yeah, camp, fall camp. I mean, fall camp is how you jail. But no, it does. I think that with the new NIL situation, it brings a different nuance, to the college recruiting game, but also to actually playing. I think it kind of helps a lot of the players switch to that pro mindset a little sooner, as it relates to that bonding aspect, but also the playing aspect and investing more time not only into your academics but into this game that we love, to play. So part of that is getting in that film room with a lot of these new faces, getting in some of those meeting rooms to have those discussions with their coaches, but also getting some of that extra work in outside of what we typically do. I think they practice now in the morning, but we used to practice from 2 p.m. all the way until about 6 or 8 p.m. in the evening. So it kind of all depends on how much time you want to put into your treatment. But we used to be there well into the evening. So considering those nuances and those changes where you for us, we just spent a lot of time together and we knew you weren't going anywhere, because if you did, you would have to sit out for a while.
Right.
Yeah. Now it's that extra time that they have to really invest to hone their craft. And during that is where they build that camaraderie that they need to be successful.
Well, I mean, are you a fan of the transfer portal as a former player? You think it's a good thing?
I'll weigh in on this one.
Okay.
I'm a fan of the NIL deal.
Yeah, I know. I asked Cody one time what he thought about that, because
I'm a fan of the NIL until I get to thinking about it too hard.
Yes.
And then I realize how much money I did miss out.
Yes, both of y'all.
It rubs me a little wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
But
we
as
we
far
have
as the
video,
transfer,
but at least we could say we were on a video game.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep, we made it. I was on a video game. So NCAA 14 was the last one.
Really?
Did you get a little check from EA Sports?
Yes, sir.
It was like 2 years later.
Yeah.
That was fun. But I will weigh in on the transfer portal. I think the biggest thing for me in the transfer portal is, I think it's cool that the players do have those options, but at the same time, one thing that I would consider a negative is it kind of, having those options, it does to a certain extent eliminate the perseverance that you really need to have in order to, I don't know, build the character and all the things that translate off the football field as they do on the football field. It kind of, I don't know, gives players an out, like before the transfer portal, or the way it is now. I mean, you could still do it, but you had to think long and hard about it, because you were going to play for a year. But prior to that, or prior to the structure that we have now, if you weren't starting, the only option was to get better.
Yeah.
And I think that having that competition and having, you're more or less backed into a corner. I mean, you're either going to fight or you're going to die. And I think that's something that's an invaluable just characteristic to have. And just being able to take on adversity and overcome it and work through it, just having that kind of mindset and being able to do that in general is something so valuable that carries over to every aspect of life. That, obviously I'm not saying everybody that transfers has that mindset, but it's just, it can be a tricky line to toe, if you're not very, aware of, exactly how you're operating, at least mentally.
I agree. And I think that transfer portal also impacts, high school recruitment as well. So, you could consider, at a university where I can go get some guys from a Division I to come play at my D1 AA school, or I could come get these guys to play at my D2 school, that, they're ready to go now. They probably just didn't get enough playing time at their previous university. and that impacts, high school students seeking opportunities to go to the college level and potentially thrive at that level playing the game as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Like they gave us Jared Ivey to interview today, and he was playing at Georgia Tech last year, and for him it wasn't a playing time. He wanted to play. He was kind of funny. He said he wanted to play in a league. He didn't want to just play patty cake games, he called them. He wanted to get into the SEC, so and get on the big stage. So I can see that too.
Yeah. So overall, the transfer portal, along with the NIL, I think it offers a lot of benefits to players, but that's just kind of how I grew up playing football, was the adversity. And adversity is something, learning how to go through it, work through adversity and building that just stress threshold for anything that happens to you in life that's just an invaluable thing to me.
So y'all are young, but you're kind of old school. You're kind of old school football players.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure.
That's right.
Hey, like he said, our class, that came in 2011. We were I think we had 8 or 9 guys from the Dandy Dozen.
Yeah.
On that class,
we were because we were like a top 10 class, and I remember it being a big thing because it was a while since Ole Miss had a class of that stature. It was a few years. I think the last class was maybe Michael Orr and Dexter McCluster, that class. So it was a big deal around that time for Coach Nutt to have that success, especially coming off a 4-win season. To have a successful recruiting class for us to come in. But I remember when we came up that summer, our senior year, it was for that senior camp at Ole Miss. And, at that point, pretty much everybody, we were working on, committing. We were kind of going into that phase on committing and deciding what university we wanted to go to. And we sat down. I'm a big guy, so we had to eat. So we were sitting down, just grabbing something to eat and drink, and we were kind of catching up. And I remember, us just having a conversation about, let's go to school together. And we're already here, so let's do it. And Dante Moncrief got up. He walked to the back and committed that day. And I think he started to train. But I would say more than anything, Cody Pruitt was always Ole Miss through and through.
Oh, yeah.
So
well, that's what I was gonna ask you.
If I was going anywhere in the SEC, it was going to be Ole Miss.
Well, Justin, what who was your main recruiter, and what did make you come? Was it just the group of guys you were there with, or what did seal the deal for you with Ole Miss?
So Derek Nix was my main recruiter at that time. He was a running backs coach at that time. And my best friend named Aaron Morris. So we actually went to middle school together and high school. And he was the number 1 lineman of the state, and I was the number 2 offensive lineman of the state. So we were kind of going back and forth. I know he was considering going to Alabama, also Mississippi State. And I was thinking of either Memphis or Mississippi State at the time. Actually, a week before we went to the Ole Miss camp, I remember CJ Johnson. We were in Starkville at a Mississippi State camp, and CJ Johnson gave me so much. Man, he just gave me. He just. He was like, "Why would you want to go to that school up north?" Like,
funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious because he talked so bad about Ole Miss. He talked so bad about me even thinking about going to Ole Miss. And for him to actually sign and decide to come to Ole Miss was really hilarious. But
bro, I remember being at those camps hearing him talk like that. Bro.
Yeah.
What changed his mind? What do you think changed his mind?
I think we did. Yeah, because we never took those things personal. We always had a good time with it, and we would always come back with other wisecracks to kind of get back at him. But I think ultimately the fact that we all decided to go there and we all got along, that's what helped him make his decision to come to Oxford.
I really think
and plus I think the official visit helped too.
That always helps.
You
can't make an official visit to Oxford and not fall in love with it.
Right.
But I will think that connection that our class had, just even before we even got to campus, it was something really special. And heck, by the end of our freshman year at Ole Miss, I think the majority of that whole class was starting already, if they weren't redshirted. But that was a special class, and I think that was one thing that cohesion in that class is something that really helped elevate not only the program but bring in more recruits, because I know when recruits would come in and they would see just the camaraderie that we shared and we had, the chemistry that we had together, it really did feel like a family. And I know that we both know after Coach Freeze got there, all in and family, that was the atmosphere that he was going to create no matter what. If you weren't in, you were out.
Well, let me ask you this. How do y'all, I'm not trying to circle back to Auburn, but could y'all see him taking the Auburn job? If it were offered? And he had a big win over Arkansas this weekend. He himself, when he was asked about it, said, "I don't know if they'd want me, but I've proven I can win everywhere I've been."
I could 100% see, and I don't know. I know Coach Freeze personally. I met his family. I know his family personally. When I worked at the dealership up here, I used to see him all the time. I would absolutely love to see him back at a Auburn or any kind of big SEC university, because I know he loves the SEC and I know he loves football, and I know he and his family are very good people, and I'll be here to defend them to the day I die. But as far as the Auburn job, I don't know. It kind of looked like he was trying to pad the resume against Arkansas. I'm not gonna lie. But
what do you think,
I was super
Justin?
happy to see him.
I would rather see him at Auburn than Mississippi State. So
yes, Coach Freeze, he ain't gonna touch State.
Well, I would rather see him at Auburn than Lane Kiffin at Auburn.
There you go.
Come on.
I definitely think he'll at least entertain the opportunity if it presents itself. But I could definitely see him at another SEC program. Like Cody said, he loves to compete at the highest level. He loves to do it. His family is in 100% support of him. So I know that they're willing to travel wherever he's headed. So if it is, packing things up and moving to Auburn, that's something that they'll be behind him 100%. So I can see him at that SEC level. I can see him coaching a program like Auburn, because I think that he would bring a lot of excitement to the program, but also, the style offense that he has matches the talent that they have at Auburn as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be looking forward to having to face a Coach Freeze offense in the SEC West, to be honest with you. But the prospect of him going to another SEC school would be, I don't know. I like it, and that's just me being, I guess, selfish, because I want to see him I want to see him get a check. Really, I love him. I love his family. I just want to see him get a check, and I know he's. Or I'll play devil's advocate a little bit here, and I would say I could see where, given all the, I guess, it was national criticism that him and his family endured during that time. I could see where he would he'd be a little bit adverse to going back to exposing himself and his family to that kind of just national spotlight. And I don't say that to demean anything that he's doing at Liberty, but it's he, like he says, he wins everywhere he goes. So they're ranked right now. They're winning. They
just got a new contract. It wasn't too shabby.
Yeah.
$5 million a year at Liberty, I think. That's nothing to sneeze at. So
they're getting attention, but it's not the kind of attention that he did get or would get, at a Ole Miss or at a Auburn or at a SEC school in general. So in defense of him staying at Liberty, I could see where just having that kind of more insulated environment would be very appealing, regardless of the money. regardless of anything else. Just being able to do what he loves to do, which is coach and help develop young men into older men or men in general.
Right.
I know he has a passion for that, so I could, I could see him, fully wanting to stay where he is and continue building, the legacy that he's working on there at Liberty.
I mean, SEC West life ain't for the faint of heart. Not saying he's faint of heart, but I'm just saying that's a different animal. Best division, best conference. I mean, y'all know that better than anybody. So
SEC West is best. It makes the Georgia exception this year. Well, I don't know. They might be good for a while. I will say this: the Tennessee Georgia game.
I was just going to mention that.
I'm glad I did not get on record saying my prediction because I really thought that if I had to put a prediction, I would have said it would have been a shootout and Tennessee probably would have won. I don't know, like maybe 40, 50 points each.
Yeah.
But
that pressure on Hendon Hooker. I mean, I don't think he'd faced anything like that, and that seemed like that was fair.
Tough. I guess I hadn't watched, or now that I think about it, I hadn't watched a Georgia game all season. So I guess I really didn't have that realistic of a view of the team. But I was very impressed with Georgia's defense. I mean, that Tennessee offense is legitimate, and they shut them down for the most part. So that was very impressive. What do you think about it, Jay Bell?
No, like you said, I thought it was going to be a shootout. Honestly, I think especially going into the game, Tennessee was on a roll. They were firing on all cylinders, and to kind of see that, I mean, it was really a lopsided game for the most part. It really caught me off guard. To be honest with you.
Man,
Georgia defense was relentless.
They were. They had a lot of hats around the ball, and I think in the words Coach Barney Farrah, everybody has a plan until you get hit in the mouth.
That's right. That's right.
So I just think Georgia, the dogs came out for Georgia, and they showed up, and I mean Tennessee didn't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah, it was overwhelming.
Did you watch Alabama and LSU, Justin?
I did.
Okay.
And I mean, I was actually talking to someone at work about it, and I said the one time we need Alabama to win.
I know. I said that all day long, messaging my Bama friends, going, "Come on, guys!
The one time we need those guys to win." This happened.
Y'all go see my Twitter feed. Everybody, y'all see my Twitter feed from Saturday.
And Justin, how about Brian Kelly going for 2 in overtime? And I think that was a freshman tight end that caught the ball. Yeah, I mean, man.
And I think he definitely caught the Alabama D off guard a little bit by going for 2. But at the same time, it was a situation where you either put up or shut up. I mean, because either we're going to go back and forth, scoring the touchdown or kicking these field goals, or I could end the game right here. So I think it more so spoke to the trust that he had in his quarterback and in his offense of coordinator as well to call the right play to put them in the end zone.
And he said something very similar to that in his post-game press conference too. Was at that time in the game, he didn't want to go back and forth anymore.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're at Death Valley. You got 100,000 fans right there rooting for you. I mean, you have the momentum. I can't. Yeah. I think he made the right call, which obviously, it worked out in their favor.
Yeah, because they scored off a big play, so you got the crowd that's already at the peak, of their voices and everything. And I mean, I know Alabama, they couldn't hear any type of communication on their defensive side of the ball. So they had to have that motion in there with the tight end in order to kind of throw the linebacker or the coverage off just a little bit. And, Cody, you would know this, being a defensive player, the communication of the switch that was needed in that scenario between the secondary, it didn't kind of go through fast enough. As part of it was because of the crowd noise and the momentum that they had going into that.
That is one thing. And honestly, I wish it's something that everybody could experience. I mean, everybody on the planet could experience once. Is just the adrenaline rush that you get from being in front of 100,000 people or 60,000 people, just a stadium full of people. Just that adrenaline rush that you get, where if you mess up, everybody's going to see it. But at the same time, you do something great, everybody's going to see it.
Yeah,
And it's just, I don't know, that's something special that I truly wish everybody could experience. That's one of the things that, I'll never take for granted.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, I mean, what was it like to win at Bryant Denny? I mean, winning in the vault was crazy enough, but to win at Bryant Denny, I can't imagine. What were you?
Oh, electrifying. Like it's always a pleasure playing in those hostile environments like that. And it's interesting because a lot of the times the fans are actually like Google you, so they'll kind of know personal information about you going into the game. And then to actually like look around and hear how quiet they are at the end of the game, and how sad they look, and you get a chance to really like, rub their nose in it a little bit.
I wish I'd have been there for that one when y'all beat on Tuscaloosa. That was special.
But a lot of people don't know, like when we're on the field, we actually practice those weeks. Like when we're going into like Death Valley or like Bryant Denny, like we're a silent count. So we don't even hear a snap count. We're just kind of going off timing and motion. That's most of, how we call our plays. And a lot of it is just signals. Like I may look over, to my center or to my tackle, and I just kind of give them a signal on, look, we're going to double team here. We're going to get up to the linebacker, or if we're pointing out who the mic is or something like that. So leading up to those types of games during practice, Coach Freeze would have these huge speakers like strapped to, and they'll be strapped to like golf carts and everything. And so they bag it all the way up to where we line up, and they're blasting out crowd noise the entire time. So it kind of, trains us and kind of helps us kind of simulate to that environment. But it's always exciting playing in those hostile stadiums.
Yeah, it simulates it as best it can, because there's nothing like being just in front of 60, 100,000, 80,000 just loud, just rambunctious people ready to watch you hit people. That's different. Well, I want to circle back to the LSU Bama game, or I guess all of Bama's games. And how do you think, or do you think what kind of role it's going to play, going into our game this week?
I think the biggest thing that we need to do on defense is not give up big plays. Outside of giving up big plays, I mean, we got to make them beat us on the ground. So we'll have to stop the run. I mean, they don't really have a deep threat, if that makes sense, on the Alabama side of things. But I mean, a big play could come from at any given moment, anytime. And it could be a quick check down route. And then,
to be honest, it's Bama, so they probably have a wide receiver that is ready to be the deep threat. He's just hasn't gotten that exact play yet.
Yeah, but I think if we could get them in those 8-play drives, 10-play drives, and we continue to make them extend those drives, that's where we win, because we have the durability. And I mean, when you look at us, I mean, we played 12-play drives. That's a normal thing for us to do. So that kind of goes back to what you were saying, Evie, with us being in shape up front as a line. So we have to, basically take it one play at a time, one down at a time, one drive at a time, and make them play ball. I mean, we can't give up any 3-play drives, that type of thing for them.
I think
what are your thoughts?
That is important that you said. I'm sorry, Missy. I don't want to lose this train of thought. But the one thing that you just mentioned was, forcing them to have those really long drives.
Right.
One thing, and this is no disrespect to Alabama or Coach Saban, nothing but respect for the program and Coach Saban. But this year they have been uncharacteristically undisciplined. Yeah, I think
their penalties are way higher this year.
think it was 2 weeks ago or game before last, whoever it was, they had like a record-breaking penalty count for Alabama, at least with Coach Saban's tenure there. And I think us being able to make them have those extended drives, if we're not stopping them, is going to be absolutely crucial on defense, which is going to be, deep. Like we talked about with AJ last week, was just getting everybody to hold each other accountable and, playing discipline, know where your keys are, know who you're reading, know where you're supposed to be fitting on every single play. But
and to your point, I mean, those penalties are a result of their fatigue. And their fatigue, when it sits in, it's kind of like, man, I'm just going through the motion. And sometimes,
remember those workouts with Coach Jackson? We always had 20 sprints that we had to run, Miss Evie.
Right.
And what he would do is, or anytime anybody messed up, we have to redo the rep. Essentially, that rep was canceled.
Yeah.
But he used to love it when we get to about rep number 15 or 16. Because he knew somebody was going to be tired. They're going to be mentally tired, so they're going to make a mistake. They're not going to touch the line. They're going to jump offside, something small. And that was one thing that I actually give Coach Jackson a lot of credit for, was not only building us, conditioning us physically, but he conditioned us mentally. And it's those workouts like that really, really just pushed us over the edge of reaching, our potential, and you guys, especially in 2015. But Coach Jackson him and his staff, I attribute a lot of our success to, because they instilled in us a mental fortitude and discipline that was, it was pretty unshakable, at least by the time 2014, 2015 came around. So that's what I think Coach Jackson, I'm sure he gets credit, but I don't think he gets enough credit for the role that he played, and turning the program around as quickly as it did.
Yeah, that's true.
Justin, what have been your impressions of Jackson Dart this season?
I love him. I think he's had a great season. Part of that is just the locker room. So, and the reason, and I go back to the locker room because that's where leaders are born. We typically, as fans, we see what they put on the field when it comes to game day. But in terms of actually creating a leader and the talks that you have with your players, that's done in the locker room. That's done in the film room. That's done in the weight room. That's where you make a leader. I love him being out there on the field. You can tell that when he's on the field, how hard that the players really fight for him. And that's just an indicator of the things that go on behind the scenes for him.
And I will say this: one of the things that I would attribute to Jackson's success being what it is now is having someone like Luke Altmaier being his competition.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Because I know Luke is a competitor. He's very talented, and I know he does possess those leadership qualities that a team would want in a QB1. So for Jackson and Luke to be, in direct competition, especially in fall camp leading up to the season, having that kind of competition where you can't let up or you're going to get your spot taken. I think having someone like Luke will absolutely propel you to reaching the potential, or at least just playing your best. So,
and I think Jackson would attribute his success to Luke as well. He even mentioned it. He even mentioned it, he said, when Luke was injured, he said, man, I didn't want to win a starting job like this. And I think that they have a great camaraderie as well as competitors, and they understand that the team is bigger than them. But at the end of the day, that, the best player is going to play.
And this is one thing just to illustrate what you just said. I think it was, which game was it? I think it was a Texas A&M game. Jackson had just thrown a touchdown, and
That's right.
the second person you see, the first person was Coach Kiffin, doing his fist pump.
Mm-hmm.
The second person you saw jump out on the field celebrating was Luke Altmaier.
That's exactly
Yes.
what I was going to say. I was going to bring that up. I think
That
somebody
speaks a
tweeted that
lot
video. It does.
Speaks a lot to the culture that is in that locker room.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie that those guys do share and have, with each other. And you have to have that kind of cohesiveness to, have a successful program. So I did want to point that out to support your point. But I have been very impressed. I think I talked about it a little bit last week, but I've been super impressed with Jackson's progress over the season.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit, the first few games, I guess you could say when the QB competition was still going, I hadn't seen anyone really separate themselves yet. Mm-hmm. And I would say even as far up to the LSU game, I hadn't seen anyone separate themselves yet on the field. And just watching the way Jackson handled the crowd, the environment, and he was very composed. He's a sophomore, and I'm not sure about the Pac-12 crowds, anything like that, but Death Valley, either way, is a whole other animal, even in the SEC. And for him to go in there and play composed, execute at a high level, keep the offense together and, in one direction, that showed a lot to me. And again, I'm very happy with his success, where he is now. And I was super proud to just, watch that progression he's made over the season.
Right.
But then let's see what time. Well, I know you got a little 8-month-old baby, brother, so we're not going to keep you too much longer. Do you have any more questions for him, Miss Evie?
Oh, I always have questions. So, I mean, I think right now I think Ole Miss leads the SEC in rushing, which, that always surprises people that then when they think of Kiffin and his, high flying offense there. But, that's obviously a testament. Without those big fellas up front, that didn't happen. And so what have you seen from them? Because obviously Quinshawn is exceptional and Zach Evans is exceptional, but again, it doesn't happen without those guys up front. So has there been anything you've noticed or been impressed with the offensive side?
I would say our aggressiveness at the point of attack. So if you really study offensive line play, it transitions from those double teams and their ability to get up to the linebackers. That's really what sets us apart. So but I do want to say, and Matt Luke kind of always taught us our why. So it's always first level first, and those guys take care of the first level. So that's the down lineman that's in front of them. And then whenever they get a chance to have a double team, they're able to get onto that linebacker quickly, which opens up those running lanes for those running backs to make the plays. And like Coach Luke used to say, the running backs always make us right. So our job is just to get in the defender's way.
I
so
like that.
They do a great job of doing that. But the aggressiveness, the fact that you see these guys diving over the piles, meaning that they're pushing the pile, and they're also playing into the whistle. And if you again, study offensive line play, a lot of offensive linemen tend to not play into the whistle, but that's really what separates a good lineman from a great lineman. So I think our guys are playing great, and a part of that is because not only do they play every play, but they're able to do that for an extended period of time for 60 minutes during their regulation play time.
And I would absolutely 100% agree with you on that. I think maybe the one time this season where I could see maybe that execution not happening quite as consistently as usual was the LSU game.
Yeah.
And I think that was, there's a ton of factors that could go into that, but
it's Death Valley.
It's Death Valley. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Part of it is the communication, and them And then also the snap count. You don't want to jump off sides,
Right.
and we're going on a silent count. So things like that kind of weigh on you over a period of time, especially when and we mentioned it earlier, being fatigued. So those are some things that, and we have a young line, so those are some things that they'll kind of grow and mature into getting over. But that I would say those are some factors that attributed to their slower play during the LSU game.
And to their defense, I will
Yeah.
say they did, I guess you could say, is have a hiccup as far as the execution goes for the LSU game, but they responded by going into a hostile environment with 100,000 people the very next week and putting up stupid numbers, rushing yards from everybody, the very next week. So, I mean, it's
Right.
that actually could be, that could be a testament to it being a young group of guys. It's when you're younger, sometimes you tend to forget the last play a little bit quicker,
Right.
and you're just ready to play the next play.
And they also had Zach Evans back. That was helpful, as you mentioned in your article. Yeah, that was very helpful.
Yeah, I know, talking about it last week, but Zach Evans, I think the leadership that he provides for the offense and for the team in general is, I mean, it's palpable whenever he's out there as opposed to whenever he's not out there. And I think that was very evident whenever you go back and watch the LSU game and then watch the Texas A&M game. I mean, it's, again, you can try to attribute it to Death Valley, but at the same time, you can't invalidate the importance of having someone like Zach Evans or AJ Finley on the field in that way. So you have to attribute those guys.
I have a hard-hitting question for you, Justin. Probably some of my very favorite pictures from your time. I just love it when you're picking up the running back, and he looks like he's this big. Who started that? Who started that?
I started. So we started it in practice, and to be honest with you, is because I wanted to have more pictures.
I mean, you know what? That's playing smarter.
They used to get all the love. So even if I would run 80 yards down the field to be the first offensive lineman in the end zone just to pick up Jalen Walton or Cody Core. Yeah, I wanted to give you
the pictures, and everybody loved those pictures.
Yeah,
everybody.
I did too.
You knew they were going to get a picture.
You talked about playing smarter, and there you go. That's exactly right.
Yeah, let's make it a photo shoot.
That's right. That's right.
It,
those were, and if you do a search for you and an image search, you see a lot of pictures of you holding up.
There you go.
Running back. So I
had to try to get in the algorithm a little bit there.
That's right. You did. You got in the Google algorithm. That's right. That's right.
I love it. Yeah. Do you have any more, I guess, thoughts or anything like that for the rest of the season? I know, well, I'll put myself out there first. Obviously, we're playing Bama this weekend. I think, like we've touched on before, there's some holes in Alabama's game that are there to be taken advantage of. Whether we take advantage of them or not, that's going to be on us and how we execute. But outside of that, looking at the rest of the schedule, I guess, what do you make of this mess in the SEC West right now?
I think, are you meaning like where we
with
stand
LSU, us losing to LSU like that? In my mind, it just messed everything up.
I think Arkansas or A&M is going to jump up and surprise LSU. Maybe
and that's
A&M,
what I'm
maybe
thinking
Arkansas,
too.
And so there you go.
I mean, Arkansas surprised us a few years back, so I think that they're always one of those underdogs that's there to play. So it is a kind of a mix right now. If we win out, maybe we could have a conversation about potentially playing in the SEC championship. But then again, we still have LSU there, and then we have a lot of competition coming from the East this year as well. So it's a lot to consider in that regard as we begin to look at where playoff play looks and bowl games and things like that.
I will say this. I want to, if you agree with this or not.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the SEC has been uncharacteristically competitive this year.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is just
it's not just top heavy.
Yeah.
Right. There's usually, a Bama, a Georgia, and, a Florida sometimes. It's usually, who's going to win the conference before the season even starts. But this year it's been competitive all year. So
I think part of that, goes into what we mentioned earlier with the transfer portal. We're able to get those guys, that we need.
Hashtag transfer for the SIP.
There we go.
Hashtag come to the SIP. Hashtag party in the SIP.
Hashtag stay in the SIP.
That's right. Well, yeah, because you know what? Now, coaches, I think Kiffin's even talked about this. It's not just trying to get kids in the transfer portal to come to your school. It's recruiting your own guys who are on your roster now and making sure they stay, the ones that you want to stay. So that's a whole different aspect when you think about you got to recruit your own roster now.
Yeah, it's like dating.
Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, it is. Yes, it is. That's so funny. Maybe we need an article on that. Yes. The transfer portal is like dating. So you know what? I'm going to say this. No wonder Lane Kiffin is the portal king. I think there's a lot of women who think he's probably pretty good at both the portal and dating. So
I agree.
There you go.
That's an interesting analogy. I'm going to dig into that a little bit.
Yeah,
I'll put that in my next article.
I think it is. But I'm with you, Justin. I think anything can happen, and I'm not gunning it. A lot of people, I think Arkansas is a better chance of beating LSU, but they're on the road for both of those. LSU is, and I mean LSU is a big rival. I actually went to A&M. LSU is a big rival, and their backs are against the wall. They're pitiful. Everybody's talked bad about him, Jimbo, and all his money he's getting. And you know what? I don't know. I didn't see any quitting that team when we played them, and I think they'll have Connor Wigman back when they play. So who knows?
I will preface this by saying I don't know, a few weeks ago, my opinion of LSU was not as high as it is now. I didn't show them the respect that they, I guess, deserved. But after the last two games that they've played, they're a good team. They are.
They are.
I'm not going to take anything away from them, and they're well coached. As goofy as like their coach might be, sometimes,
and he kind of is
well coached. Yeah. But when you talk about Arkansas, the biggest thing that jumps out to me is KJ Jefferson.
Right.
That kid is a competitor. He's an animal. He's one of those guys that can take control of a game and, do what he wants with it. And then on the Texas A&M side, like you said, they're playing both of those games away, but Texas A&M, they do have the 12th man. They do have 100,000 strong there, regardless of their record. I was very surprised with the amount of people they had at the game this past weekend. But the crowd is gonna show up, and if Weigman is healthy, I'm definitely think that gives them a much better chance. Nothing against the other. I can't remember his name. King. Nothing against him.
A-Chain. I mean, if you got Connor Wigman and A-Chain, I think you got a chance. They're running back. You got a chance.
I agree.
So it's going to be interesting. But you're right. I mean, I'm with you. LSU, I'm not making light of it that, I think one of them will jump up and beat LSU, but because LSU is very good. But, again, it's SEC West life. And, like you said, we know very well what it's like, and then have a 4th and 25 situation, which, I hate to even think about that, whatever. But I mean, strange things happen in the SEC West. So,
yeah.
And I was just last bit of tidbit. The only reason that I guess there's probably somewhere out there where I've said that I would say Texas A&M has a better chance of upsetting LSU than Arkansas is just because of the situation and all the crap that Jimbo's going through right now.
Yeah.
I know he is.
His back against the wall. Yeah.
and he is historically a good coach, and he knows how to win. He's used to those big games like that. I mean, I don't think I have to speak on how good of a coach Jimbo is, but I think the situation that he's in it's given them a little bit more fuel maybe to make something happen, because they really I don't know if he's in the hot seat or not. I know he's got a stupid contract, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a hot seat, but I know
It's warm.
It's warm.
I mean, it's warm. And over here in Texas, I like to say everything's bigger in Texas, and the buyout is really, really big. But there are some Texans with some stupid oil money that, so it would be good for him if he got a win.
Yeah.
Even money aside, you don't become a head coach in the SEC unless you're hyper competitive. So I just know just him as a person and as a coach, he's going to be looking to, get a win like LSU before the season is out. So I don't like our, I guess, fate being or teetering on whether or not LSU wins or loses, but it kind of is what it is right now, at least in regards to getting to the SEC championship, but it is what it is. And I don't know, I think both Arkansas and Texas A&M have a really good chance. Arkansas, they got KJ Jefferson, they're well coached as well. But if I had to give the edge to either of those teams, it would be Texas A&M because of the coaching, because of they're going to be in Kyle Field, 12th man, and Weigman. The performance that he had against us was unbelievable. So it would not surprise me one bit if that happened.
So how do you as players, are you, I mean, you can't help but think that they're aware of that. I mean, how do you just got to go out and play Bama regardless of what's going on in other games. But I mean, do you keep an eye out on the score, or what do you do?
As far as we're concerned?
No, as far as the current players, like I think that game, LSU Arkansas game starts at 11. I think it might be an 11 a.m. game. So by, around 2:30, are you aware if you're a player? Are you keeping up with that? Or are you just so focused on Alabama that at 11 a.m. on Saturday, you're just thinking about your 2:30 game?
I know I'll speak for myself personally. I was never whenever it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I was focused, I was focused on the task at hand. And more times than not, whenever it was never really the older guys or the guys that were starting or playing anything like that would be offering any kind of distractions, quote unquote. But usually whenever they did, the older guys, hey, shut up. We got a game to play. If you want to watch the game, keep it to yourself, stuff like that. But that's just my personal opinion. But I think it also goes to speak to the leadership that we had on our team.
Cody, you were a little scary anyway on game day.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was just for the media.
He had like a laser focus. So, but to your point though, for the most part, I mean, we all just kind of put our heads down and especially with those games being so close. So usually around 11 a.m. we used to stay in Tupelo. So we would be kind of traveling back, probably got our headphones on and trying to, prepare for the Walk of Champions and kind of get game ready. So most of our focus will be on kind of what we'll be doing in the game and kind of going through those game scenarios in our mind as we look through our final, playbook and game plays for that game.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Heck, even I don't think it was probably my senior year before I was able to tone down that focus and to be able to actually enjoy the Walk of Champions. Like my sophomore and junior year, I was still as soon as I saw opponents' colors, that's when the switch for me. But my senior year, I was able to enjoy the Walk of Champions a little bit more. But for the most part, I just know from on our team, 2011 through 2015 in Justin's case, we had a lot of really strong leadership, and there was a lot of just accountability amongst the players. So, we really didn't, coaches weren't having to, stand up on the bus. Hey, what are y'all doing? What are y'all talking about? Get focused.
Right.
If that was going to happen, it was going to come from another player, and then by the time my senior year rolled around in 2014, 2015, you had, for the most part, a group of guys it was like one mind. It was a hive mind of just, when it's time to go, it's time to go.
I think wasn't there a story last year? I think Matt Corral was having to get, I don't know if it was during a rain delay or what, but there were guys watching a game or watching something, and he went over there and I think they were even on the defense, and he went over there and told them to shut it off and focus.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't remember that story, but it wouldn't surprise me because I think we've talked about this before, Miss Evie, but me and I talked to Matt a lot ever since his freshman year, and it was mostly just words of wisdom, encouragement. Be humble, stay focused, all the typical kind of stuff. But I knew him, or I watched him, and then just through communicating with him, watched him grow into he was a very similar leader to I was. It was just kind of no BS, just do your job. That's what we're here to do. It's very business-like. Yeah. But so that would not surprise me at all.
Well, Cody, I think before we go, I think you're going to need to show us a video. Let us relive the win over Alabama.
We'll relive it a little bit here. I know it's late, so I'm sorry, Justin, if it gets you all jacked up. But
I thought you may have a piece of that goalpost in the back there.
I need one, don't I? I need one.
Definitely.
Yeah, let's check this out, and we'll try not to let it keep us up. Nothing like it. That was amazing.
Wow. Now they have to come from the other end zone.
Yeah, that was pretty special.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing that. That was special.
Didn't get we'll talk about it later. But yeah, the goalpost coming down, I was watching that thing the whole time. It was
it was amazing.
Yeah, it had you on the edge. I was glad I was at midfield. I didn't know I would have. But yeah, well, Justin, we appreciate it, brother, and hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. I think Rebel Nation. I think everybody that watches is going to really enjoy it. Anybody, please, we encourage you to go follow Justin on Instagram at jbell_68, Facebook Justin Bell, and if you want to catch up with his coaching, the Mississippi Panthers, is that right?
Yes,
MississippiPanthers.com. Go over there, check that out. Check out the merch, uniforms, pics. I'm sure you have highlights, stuff like that up.
Yes, all of it, and then you also have links to the social media for the organization as well.
Awesome.
I'm going to a game, Cody. We got to go to a game.
I'm really.
I want to watch Justin coach. I want to watch him play, and I want to watch Justin coach.
I'm very curious about it. But everybody go check out that. Go follow Justin on Instagram, social media. Of course, if you like our video, like, subscribe, share. Follow us on Instagram at Rebel Takes Podcast, Twitter at Rebel Takes, and YouTube, Rebel Takes Podcast. And Miss Evie, have anything else for Justin before we let him out?
No, I'm gonna, when we get off, I'm just gonna remember how brilliant he was to hold up his running back and get pictures. I mean, I thought you started that, and I'm not gonna forget that. I mean, that tradition continues. So you started something really cool. So we thank you so much for coming and talking to us. Really appreciate it.
No, I truly enjoyed it. It was really a pleasure, and I look forward to returning to the show.
Absolutely, brother. I love to give you guys the highlight, because sometimes the big boys don't get their names in the headlines, but y'all 100% lead the way and deserve it. So I'm glad we could get you on and get you a little bit of shine going.
There you go. Big man lead the way. There we go.
Right. That's right.